It's green for go, they're racing. He says go, he says ta-da, and Tiger Tara roars away from them on the home turn. Here comes another big boil over. Equine athleticism at its best. The king is in the castle once more. This is in one race, the rest are almost in another post. She is a star with a capital S. It's going to be a triple treat, a miracle three-peat. Ladies and gentlemen, you have witnessed history here at Menangle. What about that?
It's getting right up on the sprint lane and it's going to bolt in.
Hello, welcome to the Sprint Lane. Paul Cochran with you. And look, the live show, we've put it in recess for a little bit, but what we have done is we've come back as a special format to, I guess, lead us into what is one of the biggest milestone moments that we're going to see in harness racing in a long, long time. On the 2nd of September, the TAB Eureka will take place at Tabcorp Park, Menangle. It is a super exciting format. We can't wait to see it play out. Now, the slot holders have been announced, and we've been announcing horses as we go. There are still 5 to fill. Now, today, I am very fortunate to have one of those slot holders with me, a man who's, look, I guess a colourful and identity when it comes to the racing industry, and we are super excited to have him involved in our sport. John Singleton, welcome to the Sprint Lane.
G'day, Paul. Thanks, mate.
Mate, it is fantastic to have you not only on this show, but in our sport. Welcome aboard.
I'm just never out of it.
Never out of it.
But just gambling.
Yes. So how does it feel to now to have a broader stake in our sport in this exciting format?
Well, I've been fortunate because Graham Campbell, the chairman of Trots, is he's also chairman of my group of companies, and we've been friends and done business for 50 or so years. And when he got involved with Trots, he doesn't get involved with to back losers or to watch something with her. He wants to make it grow. And I think the big, large thinking was shown by the move from Harold Park to Menangle. I mean, yes, I was horrified too because Harold Park's part of your heritage. Wentworth Park dogs the same. But you've got to move with the times. And that's why New South Wales racing is doing so well and Victorian racing is dying on the vine. And that's why the Trots needed a chairman like Graham to get things done. And, I mean, how are you going to ever get a club to and members, all those membership rights to vote to move to Menangle when Harold Park's been there forever? It was just one of those great salesmanship jobs that now it pays off. It's so obvious now.
Got some fond memories of your time at Harold Park?
Yeah, I used to go there every Friday with Edmund Sperling, who became deputy chairman of the Sydney Turf Club. We were supposed to be studying economics, which we didn't make head or tail of. And so we used to go to the Trots instead. We used to go every Friday night, as a matter of fact. And we had a really great experience at the Trots. Really great people, great plungers, terrible losses. Would have been better doing economics. But it was just part of growing up. And then I used to go with my dad. We raced greyhounds, and we were going to get into Trots, and I knew Jack and Bob Ingham through KFC, and they just got eased out of Trots somehow. That was Big Blue, however that happened. I put all their money into thoroughbreds. And I used to, as I launched KFC, and Ingham's were the supplier of chickens back in the 60s, I knew them. They got me into Trots, and they got me into across the Theo Green. I've been in thoroughbreds ever since.
And
but still enjoy the racing.
We got you back.
What's that?
All these years later, we got you back.
Yeah.
How good's that?
It's such. The thing that got me back was talking to Graham and saying, mate, this Everest, I mean, I hope I'm allowed to plug the land because I think he's the best thing to happen to the league.
He's done a lot of good things for our
unbelievable,
well.
mate. Unbelievable for racing and for rugby league.
Yeah.
Fabulous, particularly through COVID. Terrific.
Yep.
And I just love everything he's done, and the concept of the Everest. I mean, I was that. I was feeling when I first heard of it. I thought got all clever and thought we could buy all the slots and make money. So I rang around and tried to get ex-mates to buy a slot each, and we'd have a monopoly. We must make money. But Peter's a bit smarter than me. He heard what was going on, and the next thing I had no slots.
He saw your cover.
Yeah. That's all right. And I hope to. We've got a horse this year. We hope is chosen for a slot. But this time, when Graham said if you're going to steal the best. It's a great idea. Let's do it. So now they've set the pattern. Why can't we do the same in the Trots? We can.
Yep.
So now we've got the Eureka, which is the Everest of trots.
Yep.
And we've got a big, good lead-up system, which we'll discuss, I hope. And, of course, it's qualified the 2 weeks before in the lead-up race, again a $100,000 race, and then the horses have been chosen by the slot holders. They go in the big one.
Yep.
$2 million, which is trots. The biggest race you can tell me until now is how much? How much was the Miracle Mile?
Oh, it's $1 million race. We're talking about the world's richest harness race is going to be the Eureka.
World's richest harness race
it's a
at
nice
Menangle
tagline, isn't it?
in Australia.
Yeah, it's a nice tagline.
How wonderful is that?
Absolutely.
It can be done.
So, mate, I assume I can call you Singo because that's the name of the race.
I don't care. Yeah, well, that wasn't my idea, by the way. Yeah. Campbell's idea. I wanted to call it the Campbell.
So
it's a bit Scottish.
All right. So, as we said, we've got 10 slots and 5 of them have been filled. You own one of the slots, and
yes.
And look, ever the I guess the creative mind of you. You've come up with a very unique way, and to be fair, each of the slot holders has come up with a creative energy around their slot, which is fantastic. You've got your own way that we're going to go about it, and I guess we're announcing the Singo today. So on the 20th of August is a race called the Singo. So
that's 2 weeks before.
Yes. Yeah. So I guess if we kind of, I'll just breeze through what the format looks like. So August 20th, it's a 2,400 metre race. It is for 3 and 4 year old Australian bred paces, which is important. I think that's the future of our sport, and they are the elite that are going around at the moment. Now it's only for those not yet selected to race in the Eureka. So five of those slots have been filled. So what's going to happen is they're going to race. Now, not necessarily the winner of the Singo is the one that you're going to pick. You're going to pick one that's in that race.
I want to pick the one that, in my opinion, and other people who know a lot more than I will, that the best run might come from a horse that can't get out and can flash his home for fifth.
Yep.
So I didn't want to be stuck with the winner because not always the winner. I wanted to still have some creative input into which horse.
Yeah.
Of course, we'll probably be better off getting the winner. But first, second, third, and fourth are automatically emergencies.
That's right.
At least in the Eureka.
Unless you pick one of them.
Yeah, unless I pick one of them.
Yep.
But I might pick one of the first 4. I mean, the favourite, odds are I'll pick the winner. The odds are. But I didn't want to be committed to it in case there was another great run lead up. So it's a choice. The first 4 emergencies, I can choose one of them or one outside the first 4.
Yep. And
that's chosen by me and also the club. We're in partnership on that slot.
So you're right. The top 4 will be the so unless you pick one of the top 4, but the first 4, apart from what you pick, they will be automatically emergencies for the race. Now, as we've seen in the Everest, this can happen. An emergency. You know, we saw it happen. Lost and Running got ruled out of the Everest, and the TAB had to go with Kementari on the day. So it's not necessarily they're going to be ranked 1 to 4. There'll be a pool of horses that, if some circumstance happens, they'll be able to pick from those 4 as one of the emergencies.
It's also that lead-up race 2 weeks before, which is called the
Singo.
The Singo. Great name, that. Well, it's a $100,000 race anyway.
Yeah.
And the winner of that automatically goes into the Eureka.
Well, if you pick it.
If I pick it.
Yes.
Yeah. And that's
so how are you going to go about picking it? What's that? How are you going to go about picking it? You're going to have people.
I'll find out someone who knows what they're doing.
So you're going to have people around you, are you?
Of course.
Help your talent spot.
The Turnbulls, the Frost. You're crazy not to.
Yep.
Johnny Tapp. Where's Johnny?
Yeah, well, he was in and around.
Well, I had my first drive the other day. I loved it. I wanted Johnny Tapp to give me another lesson so I could, a few lessons competitively. Loved to drive in it. But I wouldn't like to back me. Well, I've done it. I did it down at Bathurst, and I wasn't overly confident, but I loved it. I'd love to do it competitively, where you go up the inside or out, and it's amazing. It's addictive because you think, what happens if my horse? How do you know your horse isn't going to run up the horse in front of you? Well, they just never do. The horse is not that silly. It's not going to run up the bum of the horse in front, but they don't know the carriage they're carrying. So the danger of those wheels getting locked, I looked out at the wheels. I thought, I'm glad there's. We had a pacemaker. I won't tell you about my drive. It was criticised by Wendy Graham's wife because she trained this horse, and she said, just go slow the first, and then 2/3, and then go home fast. We had never been in a trot, never driven one. So I
How
started.
do you make it go fast and slow?
I didn't. Well, I just thought, let it go. It'll pick its own pace. It'll be as lazy as me. It'll go slow. And I did real good because when I went past the people, they were yelling out. I said, they're saying how good I'm doing. They were saying, so you'll kill the horse. You're going too fast. So I gave it a bit of a whip because I've seen them do that. I thought I looked like cowboy.
Upside
Tom
down
Mix.
sectionals.
Yes, I was Vic Frost reincarnated. And it didn't work, buddy, because evidently I sent it around the first track the fastest ever done. So maybe I've got a gift. They run for me, as they say. And maybe I didn't listen. But then it wasn't not listening. I didn't understand the pace.
Yeah.
So I was just doing what seemed to me natural. And then, so when I had to let it go and go faster, then I noticed the difference. It also kept running off the track, which was, of course, I wasn't driving it properly. Evidently.
Gives you an appreciation of how talented and skilled these drivers
Well,
are.
mate, to get out, you're in a box and you think, get out. Well, when you've been in those things just with a pacemaker, it's not as easy. Yeah. It's not easy. It's I don't know how jockeys squeeze through on the fences on Randwick.
Yeah, and then throw a gig in a sulky in the mix.
Throw a Royal Parade, Royal Carriage behind you as well.
The good thing is we've got a really young up and coming fleet of drivers here in New South Wales that are so talented. I mean, and the other states have got that as well. The next generation. Well, the future looks so bright of those talented, skilled reinsmen and women. And that's the thing. It is. There's a lot of women, in our sport who are so talented, and that's what I love about harness
everything with equestrian is the women are killing us, mate. I mean, it won't be long. And so it should be. We will notice the next 2 weeks, the biggest, I think soccer will be the biggest sporting event in Australia this year, bigger than the Olympics.
World Cup's going to be massive, isn't it?
Fantastic, mate. Yeah.
Mate, what is it? I know that there's a story. You always had your eye on being involved in the equine industry, didn't you? And there's a story with regards to Castlereagh Kid, one that you and your dad got involved in early. You always, I know you mentioned earlier you're involved in greyhounds and that, but it was...
And pigeons. Dad and I raced pigeons too.
But having a horse, wasn't it? That was the goal.
Yes, because I always thought, because Dad didn't smoke or drink, fantastic family life I had, but I didn't realise till later on that Dad was an inveterate gambler. And coming from the Depression, being out of work for an extended period, and then spending 50 years in a battery factory, when batteries were old-fashioned, not now, they're all going to be the answer to the world's electricity problems, good luck. But he worked in it, and Dad used to always sneak me down the races, Randwick, Canterbury. We'd walk from Enfield to Canterbury, Enfield to Rose Hill, Enfield to Randwick. We used to get a tram. And I thought, one day I'm going to have a horse, because we had an uncle with a horse. He's an SP, Jackie Lynn. He ran all the SPs in Sydney.
Yeah.
But Dad had promised Mum he wouldn't commit any crime. So unfortunately, he didn't become an SP. I wouldn't have had to work as hard if he had. But always thought we'd own a horse. And as we had dogs, we won the Richmond Lismore Cup. We won the Richmond Cup. We travelled around New South Wales. We loved it. And pigeons was an Enfield Goulburn thing, like the bike rides used to be.
Yep.
And pigeons were terrific. Now I breed macaws. So that's lived on with me with all these parrots. I breed hundreds and hundreds of them. You've probably seen video of them. But to own a horse, and I kept buying horses, I had the wrong advice. I had horses with Pat Murray, Bart Cummings, Tommy Smith, never had a winner. And I said so I got out of it. And Jack and Bob Ingham introduced me to Theo Green. And that was the beginning, because Theo was actually doing something for me, not the other trainers were doing something for them.
Yep.
I was a new mug. Ripped me off as much as they could, as fast as they could, and wait for the next mug.
So you had a maiden. So you got Castlereagh Kid. You went up to Tamworth. You won a maiden together.
Won a maiden and died the next day. Yeah. I don't know. It's pretty sick to say. I don't know how the horse improved so much and died the next day. I don't know.
Right.
But it was trained by Jerry Harvey, his foreman, Bob Keats. He trained it. I forget who wrote it. And I won a maiden at Tamworth. And I thought, when I get to, I was old, once I hit 80, I wanted to get out. I didn't want to be the old bloke learning on a finished post waiting for his next winner. I saw Jack Denham and blokes look like that. I didn't want to look like that. So I decided my last last lot of horses, which I'll be saying this in 20 years' time. I called it Castlereagh Kid.
Yeah.
And it went out and it ran a ripper race. And it ran a group race down in Melbourne. And naturally, it's injured now. But it's the
Racing the Derby, didn't it?
yes,
Yeah.
yes. And I trained it. I sold the winner of the Derby and the winner of the Slipper, but I didn't keep them.
Yeah.
Sold the wrong ones.
So, I mean, that's a nice homage to your dad and in the early introduction to horse ownership, I guess. You know, you went full circle on that.
Yeah, well, Castlereagh Kid, it meant a lot to me. I don't know why it was called Castlereagh Kid. Who were the original owners? I don't know. Yeah. What was the breeding of the original Castlereagh Kid? I don't know. But I really thought this horse was a standout. It's got an injury now, probably be out forever, but it's got a reasonable trainer.
Yeah.
And that was that was Castlereagh Kid just meant a lot to me because it took me back 50 years ago to our first winner.
Yeah. Tell you what, you've had a serious fleet of horses in between.
Yes, really got lucky. Got lucky.
I know you talk really fondly of Strawberry Road.
Yeah, well, Strawberry Road was the beginning of the greatest adventure I ever had in thoroughbreds, but there was no thrill like the different thrill when you breed them yourself and see them come up from little puppies into foals and you see them in a racetrack. I mean, it's such a thrill to see them to get there.
Yep.
There's so many things, go wrong. Like last year, people say, gee, you do well. They don't realise that last year, a third of my mares did not get in foal. You know, that's a loss, a massive loss.
It is, yeah.
You paid the service fees, you're not in foal. You lose this year, they get a year older.
Well, it's a loss to the pocket and it's a loss to the industry, mate.
Because it's lost to the pocket. Yeah. It's lost to the business. It's lost to the fun, enjoyment.
And it's a loss to the industry because we're not getting those elite pedigree horses put through the system.
No, you think, when a horse like Samantha Miss or More Joyous Misses, it's not the fun, the thrill. Some of those horses, now they're averaging $1 million. You know, 200, 300 grand used to buy you anything. Then $500,000 did. Then I was the first, I think, to pay for $1 million for yearlings back before the Chinese and Arabs decided to kick us around the park. It's just a great thrill to have a good horse, but it's a greater thrill if you breed them.
Yeah. Well, that's where harness racing's great because the entry point on a standard bred is less. They're racing a lot more than a thoroughbred.
Well, I think you're very foolish if you go in thoroughbreds to think you're going to get a good horse for less than 100,000. And then it costs you 50 grand a year to run.
You're big on the breeding, aren't you? You got to get the breeding right. I know I've seen you say that before.
If you're not one of the top 5 stallions, top 5 trainers, top 5 jockeys, good luck.
Yep. Yeah.
Whereas with harness racing, pacing, trotting, more horses seem to come from more diverse brand of stallions and broodmares, and of course the breeding rules are different too.
Mate, you mentioned More Joyous, and I see your face light up. She means a lot to you, doesn't she?
Yeah, well, that was the beginning of the great success we had with Strawberry Hill, named in honour of Strawberry Road. And Strawberry Hill was a breeding I'd bought from Pam and Bruce Rose 25, 30 years ago. And it was called Poker Hill. And I wanted to call it in honour of Strawberry Road. It became Strawberry Hill. And I remember I had my broodmares with John Massara at Arrowfield. We shared them, 50-50, and I wanted, obviously, my mares to be my farm so I could pat them and give them apples and pretend I knew what I was talking about. And so John and I, rather than disagree, he said, why don't we toss? I said, okay. And I got first pick, and I chose Joy Denise. And, mate, it was just the luckiest thing I ever did. Because Joy Denise then threw, the whole family. It was Denise's Joy's last daughter. And she won a Group 1. She was the best, only really great one of Denise's Joy, one of our great horses. And from Joy Denise, I got More Joyous, More Strawberries. I mean, every horse she threw was either a champion or threw a champion or a Group 1 winner.
Yep.
And that was the beginning of our lucky run because I had Strawberry Road mares. There was only 3 in the world I could get in America. I brought them out, and then I had Joy Denise and the Joy Denise's Joy family. And from that, we were able to have almost 50 Group 1 winners and a lot more than that Group winners generally in black types.
Is she favourite, More Joyous?
No, I still tend emotionally towards Strawberry Road because it was the biggest adventure, most fun, biggest win, biggest loss. I mean, biggest robbery. I mean, the horse was absolutely slaughtered by the jockey, who admitted before he died that he'd butchered it.
Yeah.
Yet he was broke, so he had to tell the truth. well, imagine in the Arc, you're the favourite. Horse of the Year in Germany, France, Australia. He's favourite in the Arc de Triomphe, and the whole of Australia was there. We were in the King George Sank, and my partners, I had Ray Steer and Kerry Packer, and I had a third each. And then we had one cheers to Larry Pickering, Ronnie Duffsty's dad, Maury, Jeff White, Masqué fame,
Yep.
and it was Jerry Rose, my vet. When we went to Paris, we had an option to buy £10 million if it won the Arc after it run the lead up. $3 million if it won a place, £10 million then. Not like now, you can't buy a house on the water. It was £10 million. You could have bought all of Auckland. Unbelievable. This is in 1980.
Yeah.
So it was. I had to call the race for 2KO. I'd call the football successfully because I knew football.
Yeah.
I knew the players, the shape, the walk. I could just do it.
Yeah,
It was instinctive. When it came to racing, mate, I knew all the colours. I could, even now, white with the yellow, Rainbow Quest, I can see them all now. But when I was calling, Larry Pickering was sitting beside me, and if I said "and followed by," that meant I don't know. And he had to whisper to me who it was, so I wouldn't have a pause in this great, fantastic midnight call of the Arc de Triomphe live from Paris. And it was just a disaster because I saw it jump just behind the pacemaker. It was perfect. Slipped in easy over on the fence. The track was an absolute bog, a foot of mud it was. Really, legitimately, a foot of mud. You couldn't walk across the track without losing your shoes. And it was just, no horse has ever won the leading into the straight, ever, in the Arc de Triomphe. And he'd won an Arc, Greville Starkey, so he knew that.
Yeah.
No horse had ever led, and he led 100 yards before the turn.
Oh.
I said at the time, he's either a crook or a genius. Turned out to be a crook. But, yeah, we're going to see how naive we were. If Ray Steer and I'd backed it, apart from a 10 million quid winning day, if it won, we also had backed it at 300 to 1, 200 to 1, 100 to 1. Now, we stood to win millions of dollars, all of us. And Kerry Packer, quietly, what do you reckon he had? If we were going to win millions, how was he going to win? And the bookies, we're only there once, so the bookies, Greville Starkey, the bookies had a lot more incentive to get beat than we had to win.
Jeez.
So I think we cost ourselves yeah, I wish. Anyway, and then Strawberry Road, then it stayed on with Wildenstein, and the winner of the Arc that year was a horse called Sagars, and he kept wanting to keep Sagars away from Strawberry Road. So we said, look, if you want to do that, you better buy it because we're going to race against Sagars every race. And that was our instructions. We had to race Sagars. So Daniel Wildenstein had to either cop that, see who was the better horse, or buy us. So we didn't get 10 million, but we did well. We paid for our expenses at the bar at King George V. And we came home, and Strawberry Road then, it was not regarded as a stallion. I would have kept it here, but everyone said it'll just be another double century. That's a grand a service. Those days, 50 services, 50 grand a year, not worth X million dollars. And when I went to America, it was the guy who owned Cigar. Remember a guy called Alan Paulson, war hero, and he named all these horses after battles or places where he had to drop bombs. And he didn't think much of it either, but he had 7 mares who didn't get in foal. So Strawberry Road, they went in the paddock with him. He got them all in foal, and they were late, obviously, the latest of his yearlings. And they all turned out to be 4 of them were Group 1 winners and 2 of them were Group winners. So
yeah, good.
by the time he then had 2 massive books of Alan Paulson's mares, and he only had 300 and something foals in a lifetime. Now they do that in a year, as you know. Yeah. And yet it was in the top 10 stallions in America, top 5 for 10 years or top 10 for 5 years, one of those two. So it was but then died too young. So only had a couple of years of 3 or 4 years and then died. So it was never, and that was a great adventure, mate. What could have been.
Imagine, yeah.
And what a time we had. Yeah. What a time. Yeah. It was marvellous.
So that's where we'll finish up part A of this fascinating chat with one of racing's more colourful characters, John Singleton, or as we like to call him around these parts, Singo. Hey, we're allowed to call him that these days. We're mates, and after all, we've got a race named after him. That, of course, is the Singo. It's on the 20th of August, and as a slot holder in the inaugural running of the Eureka, that will help decide who gets Singo's spot on September 2, the inaugural running of the Eureka at Tabcorp Park, Menangle. Now, make sure you keep listening. Part B just gets even better. The stories, they keep coming at you thick and fast, including this one, a stroll down memory lane, one of the more iconic moments in Australian racing history.
And Singo's putting on free twoies for everyone. We can't find him. He might have already gone to the bar.
Anyway, this is the members' bar, and I've been thrown out of that many members' bar. I don't want to stay here. I'm going to the public bar, and there's going to be free piss all afternoon, and we can throw the members out of the public bar.
Wonderful memories, of course, of the time Belle de Jour won the 2000 Golden Slipper at Rose Hill, and Singo well and truly stole the show. Now, he might just have something in store for the night that the Singo is raced at Tabcorp Park, Menangle on the 20th of August. Can't say too much. If you listen to Part B, you might just get a little inkling of what Singo's got in store for that particular night. Of course, all that leads up to the inaugural running of the TAB Eureka on the 2nd of September. Plenty to get through. Singo, forever the great storyteller. All that and more in Part B. We'll see you over there.